Hi, this is Fatima. Here let us discuss how to set up MVC in ASP.NET Core application. Before proceeding to this video, watch my previous video where we have a brief introduction to ASP.NET Core MVC framework. MVC Setup. It is possible in ASP.NET Core to build an entire application using only the ASP.NET Core middlewares. But the ASP.NET Core MVC framework provides us a new feature that we can use to create HTML pages and HTTP based APIs easily. So here we will see how to set up this MVC in ASP.NET Core application. The two simple steps required to set up this MVC in ASP.NET Core application is configure services and configure the middleware. The first we need to add the required MVC services to the dependency injection container. Let us see how to do this step. This is an ASP.NET Core web application we have created with simple empty project template. In order to set up the MVC in ASP.NET Core application, our first step is to add the required MVC services to this dependency injection container. To do so, let us modify this configure service method of the startup class, which is present inside this startup.cs file. So let us add this add MVC method on this iService collection instance, which includes all the required services which are required to develop the ASP.NET Core MVC application. We also can have add MVC core method in this place. We will discuss about this add MVC core method in our upcoming video. And the second step is to add the required MVC middleware to this request processing pipeline. So let us configure the MVC middleware to this request processing pipeline. Here also the framework provides two middlewares, use MVC with default route and use MVC. Let's use MVC with default route now, and let us discuss the use of use MVC middleware in our upcoming videos. Understand this use MVC with default route middleware. Look at its definition. Expand this. You can see here the default controller is home and the default action is index action method for our application. With keeping this in mind, let us discuss how the request is handled when we issue a request to the root URL. That's it. We are done with the MVC setup in ASP.NET Core application. Now let's run the application and navigate to the root URL of the application. When you navigate to the URL, you will see this hello world message in the browser. As we have not specified any controller or action method in this URL, the MVC middleware will look for the default index action method of the home controller. As of now, we have not created any home controller, so that the MVC middleware will pass the request to the next middleware, which is registered using the run method. And this is the middleware which will serve the request and returns the hello world response onto the browser. Now let us see what happens if we remove this middleware which is registered using the run method. Modify the configure method by removing this run method. With this change, now let's run the application. Now we see this HTTP 404 error. The reason for this is the use MVC with default route middleware did not find any home controller with the index action method. and there is no other middleware in this request processing pipeline. As a result, we get that 404 error. In ASP.NET Core MVC application, all the controllers should be present within the specified folder called controllers. So first we need to add the controllers folders within this root project folder. To do so, right click on this folder, add, click new folder, give the name as controllers. Once we add this controllers folder, then add a new class file with the name home controller within this controllers folder. To do so, right click on this folder, click add, new item, select a class file, give the name as home controller. Click on add. Once you click on the add button, this home controller is added within this controllers folder. We added this index action method that returns a string index action method from MVC controller class within this home controller class. Now let's run the application with this change. And navigate to this root URL of your application, you will see this message, index action method from MVC controller class. So in short, we can say to set up the MVC in ASP.NET Core application, first we need to add the required MVC services to this dependency injection container, and secondly, we need to configure the MVC middleware in this request processing pipeline. Let us check if we have not added these services to this dependency injection container and only configure the MVC middleware. With this change, now let's run the application. This is a developer exception page we got as an output. Expand this. Since we have configured to display the developer exception page if the environment is development, this page is shown, and here it is clear the message. It is clear from this exception message it is an invalid operation exception, and it also explains us what to do in order to resolve this. You can see here unable to find the required services, so please add all the required services by calling iService collections.add MVC inside the call to configure services in the application startup code. Let us do the same. Application startup code, inside the configure services, use iService collection instance to add MVC. Now if you run this application, the application is working as expected. It shows the string from the index method of the home controller class, index action method from MVC controller class. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Our next video is about how to configure add MVC core services in ASP.NET Core application. Thank you.